No way they're actually doing this, as we have a major Easton Cowan update, and it's looking like he may actually make the Toronto Maple Leafs this season. And we have another prospect update with someone who's looking to turn pro this season, and it's not who you think it is. We're going to break all of that down, but before we do, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 70% of you, 71.6% to be exact, are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button. It's free, and you get to stay up to date with everything Toronto Maple Leafs. It's going to be a fun season. Obviously, guys, it's just me today. Nick is on vacation, so wish him a happy vacation. But, you know, he'll be back tomorrow anyway. So he'll be right back in our video tomorrow. And I hope everyone's having a great Labor Day weekend and a great Labor Day at the time of this upload. And of course, let's get right into it. Easton Cowan, we may have a little more insight into why he might make the Toronto Maple Leafs as soon as this season. And this comes from Leafs updates. And of course, I'm going to give my thoughts as to why I don't think he's going to make the Leafs full-time this season, but he will make the team right out of training camp. That might sound confusing. I'll get into it in a few minutes. So this was from Leafs updates. He forgot to mention, he was doing a bunch of posts and stuff yesterday with some updates, that Easton Cowan will not be attending the London Knights training camp as he prepares for Leafs rookie camp and Leafs training camp, and, you know, in hopes of making the roster. Now, this is not too crazy to me. Like, there's a lot of OHLers, for example, just the OHL, you know, it could be the WHL too, that come back after, you know, a couple seasons of being drafted and don't follow through with the entire camp with their junior team, even if they're going to be sent back. There's a lot of guys that do that. So this isn't something completely out of the ordinary, but it looks like he's really gearing up. Like, he has no time for the OHL right now. He wants to make the NHL and leave a good impression. Now, is he going to make the NHL? I don't know. I think it's going to happen right out of camp. I think he's going to get his 9 games. And a lot of you might be wondering, what does that mean? There is an agreement in place with the CHL and the NHL where they can't, you know, keep star players, quote unquote, from the OHL or the junior leagues. They can't keep them up or, you know, graduate them to the AHL too soon, because then the CHL loses their star power. So the CHL wants to keep some of their bigger names like Easton Cowan in the league a little bit longer. Now, if you want to pause and read this, you can. There's a couple things I want to highlight, which is, you know, the player must be at least 20 years old by December 31st, or have played 4 seasons in juniors. So obviously Easton Cowan is not eligible to play for the Toronto Marlies at this point. Again, if you want to pause and read this all, this is the entire rule between the CHL and the NHL. So Easton Cowan can play up to 9 games this season in the NHL. And then, of course, once he reaches that, you know, milestone, I'll say, he either has to be sent back to the OHL or he stays with the NHL team. He cannot be sent to the Marlies, and he burns a year of his ELC. So to me, I believe Easton Cowan will make the team out of camp. They're going to give him a shot. They want him to be around the NHL and get that experience for the 9 games, and then he'll be sent back to the London Knights. Now, a lot of people may agree with that and may not agree with that. I think that's the best course of action. I think he needs to work on his defensive side of the game. Again, in terms of offense, and we can get into Easton Cowan's stats and all that stuff, like, he doesn't have to be sent back to the OHL. There's nothing for him to learn. He won a championship, and of course, he didn't exactly have the storybook ending at the end. He won the OHL championship. He was the OHL MVP for the season and the playoffs, which hasn't happened since 2015 with Connor McDavid, so some good company there. But didn't have the storybook ending, losing in the Memorial Cup final. But, you know, lots to like from the players still, obviously, of course. And if you're looking at what he can learn from the OHL, there's not much left besides maybe his defensive game and the fact that he's just not ready to play in the NHL, and it's going to be a waste of a roster spot. I don't think he's going to play in every game, and it might stunt his development a little bit. So I would think that he gets sent back to the OHL after his 9 games this year, and they might stretch it a little bit to give him more experience in the NHL. Maybe, you know, he stays up with the Leafs until maybe November, something like that, maybe even until the World Juniors. We've seen that before with guys like Owen Tippett. So there's a lot of options there. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Leafs end up doing, but let me know in the comments what you think. Should Easton Cowan make the team full-time? Is he ready? Because the Leafs are obviously looking for left wings. He's a left wing. I still think he's maybe too young. There's not too much for him to learn in the OHL still, but he might just go back, work on his defensive game, the little things, right? Becoming a good pro, and take what he learned from NHL camp and the few games he's going to get in the NHL back to the OHL and see what he can do with that. And of course, in development camp earlier this summer, he was working on some different things. So love to see that from Easton Cowan. Now, to shift gears a little bit, the Leafs have a prospect and a very interesting case with this one. The Leafs have a prospect named Brandon Lisowsky, right? And he plays for the Saskatoon Blades. He actually plays with Fraser Minten, the other Leafs prospect that we've been talking a lot about. And he's an interesting case. He was drafted in the 7th round in 2022 under the Kyle Dubas administration. And obviously, he was not signed to a deal because I guess, Brad Treliving's administration is a little bit different. I think they value different things in players, and he maybe doesn't fit that mold. Now, at the same time, this is a very skilled player, and he could make his way onto the Leafs, right? But at some point, or even into the system, the Marlies, and that is his goal in this season, right? And we'll get into a quote from Haley Wickenheiser, who of course works for the Toronto Maple Leafs, on the situation and what she thinks might happen. I thought it was pretty interesting insight. We'll get into that now, of course, from Haley Wickenheiser. It was really hard for him not to get signed, but we have talked to him about being positive, coming here and having a great camp and looking at what we can do moving forward. And of course, what she was talking about, that was a little bit earlier in the summer. That was at development camp. He showed up for development camp and was still skating with all the other prospects, but of course went unsigned. And it looks like he's going to be making his return to the Leafs rookie camp this year and fighting for a spot to possibly get signed to a AHL deal, play, make the jump to pro at some point. Obviously, it looks like he wants to finish his time with the Saskatoon Blades as an overage player this season, so he'll probably do that. But again, this is a pretty skilled player who I think could be an option for the Leafs down the road. Yes, maybe not the next couple of years, but an interesting piece who can maybe develop with the Marlies. But again, he was a Kyle Dubas administration draft pick, so I think Treliving kind of values different things in players, and whether you agree with that or you don't agree with that, that is the fact of the matter. And it looks like this player, despite a really good training camp or rookie camp coming up here, he might not fit in with what the organization wants to do. But still, a very skilled player. I wonder if they do end up taking a look at him still. But let me know in the comments what you think of this whole situation. If this is a guy, again, that they should sign, hang on to, right? Maybe he can learn some of the intangible things along the way with the Marlies if he is signed to an AHL deal. And let me know in the comments what you think of Easton Cowan. Should he make the Toronto Maple Leafs right out of camp? I'm thinking he should, personally. He should absolutely make the team out of camp. Get those 9 games. They can stretch it as long as they want, of course, until I think it's a December deadline. There is a deadline there, so stretch it as long as you can. Get him all that experience with the NHL club, learning from guys like Matthews and Nylander and of course John Tavares, former captain, and all of those guys who've done it, been in the NHL for a long time and found success. Have him with those guys and then bring it back to junior, put it all together. Maybe he wins another championship. Maybe he gets dealt at the deadline in the OHL to another contending team and puts on another show and goes on another run, right? Just gets more experience. So let me know in the comments what you think of that. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything Toronto Maple Leafs.